Okay, we are back in action. Saturday morning upload. Figured I'd keep it light, keep it digestible, keep it fun for you guys today. I'm going to be talking about some of my comparisons for prospects in this 2022 class. Now, I'm not going to talk about any running backs because Nick's video on Wednesday and Noah's video, great name, on Tuesday broke down everything you need to know about running backs. Their athleticism, their production, their build, and I believe Noah's video, he gave all of the athletic comparisons for these guys and running backs. Like, at the end of the day, they all fucking stink. It just comes down to athleticism and size and their running style. And it's like, hey, Thomas Rawls looks like every other 215-pound running back out there. But he did a very good job, not taking anything away from him, he did a very good job of breaking down how these guys stack up to former NFL players, saying Mike Gillislee is Isaiah Spiller and all of that. So if you're interested in hearing thoughts on running back player comparisons, tune into the Tuesday or Wednesday video on this channel. I'm going to be talking about not all the prospects because I'm not fucking insane, although a little bit. I'm going to be talking about some quarterbacks and wide receivers. Again, I have no fun watching college tight ends, and I'm not going to lie to you and say that I watched 10 hours of film and give you an educated guess or an educated opinion on who their player comparison. Can you stop fucking texting me? An educated player comparison on them, because I honestly don't want to watch them play. Whereas some quarterbacks and some wide receivers I have seen play, and I'm going to give you some quick hitting, hopefully lighthearted comparisons for them. You know what? Let's not even hit an intro. Let's just jump right into it. We have Malik Willis. He is looking to be one of the first, if not the first, quarterback taken off the board. Guy's about 6'1", 220 of pure fucking meat. All right, just cut the video. You know what I meant. Whatever. He reminds me of a two-lunged Tyrod Taylor. A Tyrod Taylor whose medical staff doesn't hate him. The guy is not necessarily the biggest framed player out there, although he does look bigger than 220. He looks very muscle-bound. His arm is fucking ridiculous, and I think the same way that Tyrod Taylor brought fantasy value to us by way of legs, by way of big plays when he was connecting with Sammy Watkins back in the day, I think could be Malik Willis's forte. Shout out Matt. If he goes to Pittsburgh, like it seems like everybody is saying he's going to go to, which sometimes when there's that much buzz around a player going to a certain situation, it just ends up happening, which I do not understand. But if Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool and Najee Harris and Pat Freiermuth are his weapons, and if they bring back Juju or add a guy in this rookie draft to add onto that weapons class, he's going to be awesome. He's going to be better than Tyrod Taylor ever was, one or two lunged. So I really like his upside for fantasy. We also have Matt Corral. He reminds me of every quarterback whose initials have been TH, whether it's Tyler Huntley or Taylor Heineke or any other quarterback who doesn't give a shit about CTE as long as they pick up that first down by diving head first. Maybe even Ryan Fitzpatrick. He is shockingly athletic. He is not the biggest framed guy, and I don't say he's like shockingly athletic because he's a white dude, but because he's kind of like a smaller frame, and you wouldn't expect somebody who's about like 6'1", 210, 220 to be running as much as he does. That's kind of fucking counterintuitive because I just said Malik Willis was super athletic and he's about the same size. But Matt Corral looks like he's about Baker Mayfield size, but that dude can scramble, and I really like his game. I don't think he's going to be the best quarterback in the league. I'm probably going to be a middling, like quarterback 15 to quarterback 20 in terms of real-life talent. But again, I like his game for fantasy football because he can run. Taylor Heineke, obviously we saw this year, is a fucking idiot, but he can run the ball and he can throw it deep. Matt Corral may not have the best arm strength in this class, but he can hit some throws. I like his game. I think he's going to be a very decent fantasy quarterback for you and somebody you can probably pick up at the end of your first round of rookie drafts and turn into a high-end quarterback too. That can also be said for a guy like Sam Howell. I'm going to run back the player comparison. He's like Taylor Heineke with a better arm. He obviously had a much better season the year prior than he did this year, but the guy can scoot. He's pretty quick. He had over 800 rushing yards. I think he had actually over 1,100 rushing yards this year on designed runs. Really like his game. Kenny Pickett reminds me of Uncle Jack from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He's got baby hands. He's like Jack Doyle, but he can fucking sling it. He's pretty quick, ran a 4.7. I don't know what his game is going to be like in the NFL. I don't know if small hands is really that big of a deal. I'm not going to lie to you. Mike Vick is the only other one with 8.5-inch hands that had success in the NFL, but Mike Vick was real fast, and Kenny Pickett is not that, and he doesn't have the mobility in his game that Mike Vick had. So again, it's kind of hard to throw a player comparison out there for him just because he seems like such a unique prospect while also being such a cookie cutter prospect. My brain cannot handle it. I don't know what's going on with Kenny Pickett. I'm just going to move on and say watch the guy play. He's pretty fun to watch. But at the same time, he looks like every other like 6'4" quarterback that's ever come out of college. Same with Carson Strong. He's like fucking Nick Foles or Joe Flacco or I don't know. You name him. You name him. He's a fucking statue. And then we have Desmond Ridder. I've seen a lot of people say Marcus Mariota. I kind of like that. He's like Marcus Mariota who hasn't gotten laid. That's like a double entendre. I don't know if he's a virgin, but we'll leave it at that. Wide receivers. This is what I'm more interested in. A lot of people's quarterback or wide receiver one is Treylon Burks out of Arkansas. He reminds me of what I think Josh Gordon is, or what a sane person sees in A.J. Brown. He's gotten a lot of Deebo Samuel comps. I don't think he's nearly as elusive, and by elusive I mean like shifty, because he can obviously break through tackles, but I don't think he can play running back in the NFL like Deebo Samuel has. I think that's a very unique skill set that not many people can be compared to. That's like when everybody starts comparing Jahan Dotson and Jameson Williams and all these other fast fuckers to Tyreek Hill. Like there's one Tyreek Hill. Don't try to compare them. I think Deebo Samuel is in a class of his own when it comes to skill set. But I think A.J. Brown or Josh Gordon is a fair comparison. The guy is 6'2", 220, an absolute brick shithouse. He can beat you deep. He can beat you in the intermediate game, and he can take a screen to the absolute house. So I love his game. We also have Garrett Wilson. A lot of other people's wide receiver one, he is in a tier with Treylon Burks for me at the top of the class. He's like Stephon Diggs. He is so smooth the way he skates around the field. It looks like Nancy Kerrigan. And speaking of, George Pickens also reminds me of Nancy Kerrigan, but after the Tanya Harding incident, because he's a little stiff. He did run a 4.4, and that guy gets up there and fucking snags balls. So he also reminds me a little bit of Mike Williams, because not only can they get vertical, but they also look like they're going to die every time they catch the ball. Their body control is insane until their skull hits the earth, and then it's a wrap for them. Hopefully he's healthy in the NFL. If not, he'll probably just fight whatever cornerback that lines up across from him. So at least he'll be fun to watch. Another player who people have in tier 1, he is like tier 1B to me. He is between tier 1 and tier 2. Drake London, awesome analytical profile. Played with some big name players at USC, like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Produced in the face of playing with NFL caliber talents. Didn't play a full season this year, but averaged over 100 yards a game. He reminds me, not even trying to be funny at this point, like Dennis Rodman. He just goes up and fucking snags it. He doesn't care who is in his way. He's a psychopath. He's like one of those guys where you get in a fight and you snub him in the face and they just take a step back and start laughing and you're like, okay, this guy's going to beat the absolute shit out of me. He's kind of like a psychopath on the field, which I love. He's like T. Higgins on some sort of testosterone. He is one of the better objectively prospects in this class and one of my favorite guys to watch. It's always hard to know if they will translate to the NFL, these 6'5" dudes who don't necessarily get separation via route running but go up and get it like a Kenny Galladay would. But then again, we've seen other guys fail in the face of that profile, like a J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, or N'Keal Harry never ended up really doing anything in the NFL, or Kevin White, or Darial Green Beckham. But I do think Drake London, the fact that he was as productive as he was at, as big of a program as he was at, leads me to believe that he is going to be a very, very good NFL player. Alabama star Jameson Williams. Harsh, but he reminds me of a New York crackhead. He is fast as... He's just real fast, okay? And his start-stop ability is next to Deshaun Jackson or a Tyreek Hill in terms of comparisons. If you watch this man run a double move, it's insane. He stops, his knees stop, his defender stops, and then he's gone for 40, 50 yards. I love his game. I really hope the ACL doesn't hold him back in terms of blossoming in the NFL, and I hope it doesn't hurt his draft stock. I doubt it would. He has the pedigree coming out of Alabama, and he has the production. Maybe if a team wants to take a chance on him day one, he is going to land in a more favorable spot than if he didn't tear his ACL. Like, it's harsh to say, but maybe he ends up at the back half of the draft and he lands in a good spot in terms of franchise and fit. Love to see him in a place like Buffalo. Love to see him in Green Bay. Love his game. Fast as all get out. Would absolutely love to see him blossom in the NFL. We also have Sky Moore, who is personally my favorite wide receiver in this class. Not the best, but my favorite. And I've learned that lesson of saying my favorite rather than the best, because my two favorite prospects in the last two classes ended up not being great. And if I had just said that I like them rather than I think that they're awesome, it would have turned out better for me. Between Jalen Reagor and who was it last year? It doesn't matter. They probably suck right now. But he reminds me a lot of OBJ. And that is very high praise. But when it just comes to tenacity on the field, the want to beat a defender, like the fact that he wants it more than a defender, maybe OBJ isn't that level anymore. But when we saw him in New York, or when we saw him, I guess, with Stafford this year, it just looked like he was better, faster, more agile than everybody else on the field. Sky Moore, very similar size, about 5'11", 195. Fast as hell, ran a 4.39, I believe. And from a small school, but he's a man amongst boys out there. He does have a more wiry frame. Apparently he played cornerback going into college, and that shows in his frame, but he's just a monster, and I think he's going to be very, very good in the NFL, and I think he made himself some money at the Combine and is going to be a locked-in day 2 pick, maybe even round 2 selection. I have a few more comparisons here. I guess we'll go with Chris Olave first. He's got a lot of different comps when you hear or read about him on the interwebs. It's T.Y. Hilton, it's Brandon Cooks, it's Darnell Mooney, it's Deshaun Jackson. But my favorite can be remembered through a mnemonic device, Olave Garden. It is knockoff Italian food, but it's also unlimited soup, salad, and breadsticks. You know what else is unlimited? Russell Wilson. And despite moving to Denver, Russell Wilson still only loves one thing in his life, more than Ciara, more than hating on Future, and more than his religion. It is Tyler Lockett, and that is my comparison for Chris Olave. Love his game. Super small dude. Ran a 4.26. That was actually like a 4.38. So he's not as fast as that guy's fingers say, but he's still quick, still a great route runner. Came out of a great school in Ohio State. Probably going to be a first-round pick, maybe the first receiver off the board. We shall see. Again, despite me loving his game, it's hard to know if a guy as small as him is going to produce in the NFL, but I think he just has the nuance and the experience and the route running in his bag to make him a great NFL player. We also have Alec Pierce. Reminds me of Danny Amendola or Julian Edelman or Cooper Kupp or Chris Godwin. Probably the first three. Just shades of the first three. And lastly, we have Christian Watson. Forgot to mention him in the last video I did where there was guys that I was looking forward to seeing at the Combine. Christian Watson blew it up. 6'5", about 205 to 210. Ran in the 4.3s. He is what New York Jets beat reporters say Denzel Mims is in the offseason. He's like a juiced up Michael Pittman. He makes deadly catches all over the field, whereas Denzel Mims' deadliest catch comes at legal seafood, and it holds him out for the entire season. That's it for today's video. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for you guys, depending on what you think of me, this is probably my last video on this channel. Maybe ever. So thank you for having me, for how long you have had me. Yeah. You'll see me around though, hopefully. But maybe just not on this channel. Still a friend of the brand. Still very close and thankful for everything this has afforded me. And it seems cryptic now, but in like a week you'll find out why. So that's it. Thank you for everything, and have a great weekend. Peace.